We're going to turn now to immigration and border
Donald
security. We
Trump.
know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the
Border
board in this
security.
country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central
Immigration
America.
should be a
We know
layup
that
for
illegal
Donald
border
Trump.
crossings
So we'll
reached
see
a
how this
record
goes.
high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
So the question is, why did you wait 6 months before the election to do X, Y, and Z? I'm gonna listen to see if she answers that part. I'll let her build herself up. Go ahead, but I do want her to answer that question.
And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he...
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop. She absolutely answered the question. She got there. She built it up. It was a great answer to the question. The reason why we couldn't get it done is because of Donald Trump. And that is true, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely true. So, all right.
prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do...
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to lie, Kamala's kind of cooking Donald Trump right now. She's kind of cooking Donald Trump right now. The first part, we're talking about the economy. It was kind of meh. It was kind of meh on both sides. Abortion, she cooked Donald Trump. Immigration, she is cooking Donald Trump. Well, let's see how Donald Trump responds.
Do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving.
Why'd you bring up the rallies? Why? You just give them layups to answer stupid points. Who cares? Who cares about the rallies? I don't care. Why'd you bring that up? You just give them the ability to not answer the important questions. Stop doing that, Kamala. Jesus.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies.
Oh
we have the biggest rallies, the
Donald
most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. what they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating.
Wait, what? Wait, let me. I just heard eating dogs and cats. Wait, what?
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the image.
Keep fact checking that bum. Like, what are we doing? Eating dogs and cats is wild. Like, eating dogs and cats is wild. Yo, immigrants are eating the dogs. They're eating your cats. They're eating your pets. Donald Trump is fucking wild.
Immigrant community.
This is our
People on
presidential
Let me just
candidate,
say
by
here,
the
this
way.
is
The people on television say
clear-
my dog was taken, and
The people on the TV, the people on the telly, the people on the telly, they're saying all these things. They're saying all these things. It obviously is true. I'm going to be the president of the United States. I listen to the telly.
used for
Yo!
food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city
Oh
manager.
my
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Trump
Again,
is
the
a
Springfield city manager says there's
clown.
no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the
I heard a lot of people hate Dick Cheney. I personally don't know a lot about Dick Cheney. So if he's a controversial figure, Kamala, why would you bring his name up? I don't know. One thing I will say, I think Kamala is doing pretty well. My issue, though, is she gives him layups by saying stuff she shouldn't be saying. There's no need for you to say certain things. You're just giving him layups.
sidetrack on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the
deep frying
American
Donald
people
Trump
are
right
not
now.
being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job,
Of course
I
they
fired
did.
them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and
Oh,
the
okay.
13 people whose were just killed viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family.
Of course you
They
did.
didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most
Fire all the
incompetently
generals,
handled
man.
situations
Fire 'em all.
anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But
With
they
me,
have
they
done
can write
such a
books,
poor
but
job,
nobody else
and they
can, dude.
never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not.
How many people are going to latch on to, see, the Democrats didn't fire people. Donald Trump was firing so many people. Yay for firing people. W, political rhetoric. W.
To have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher.
Fire any of their economists. They have the same people.
Sorry, I
That's
just
a
need
good
to make sure
than
I
any
get the,
Republican in history president.
To talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation.
I got to make sure I get the question correct.